Hello team. Today today we have another user virtual event of Hyderabad. So now I and Vishal Ghakera co-host this event and Krushna is the speaker for today and she's going to speak on clean code practices in headless projects. Over to you, Krishna.
Yes. Hello everyone. Welcome to this session. So today we are going to talk about clean code practices in headless project. So in this first, we will look into why clean code practice is important in headless project, and we will look into the common error first and how we can prevent that common errors and issues that occur after the deployment using clean code practices. Let's get started. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Krushna Patel. Currently, I'm working as a senior DX engineer at Horizontal, and I have completed 5+ years in IT industry, basically in modern JavaScript framework like React.js and Next.js. And from last 3 years, I am working with Sitecore headless projects. And this is my LinkedIn URL, and this is the my blog URL where I used to write a blogs. Let's talk about today's agenda. So just a minute. Yes. So in this session, we are going to talk about uh, normal basic why we require the clean code practices, why it is important. Then we looked into the common errors that most of the developers we are facing while developing, working with the Next.js project. And then we will look into the cause of that errors and we will fix how we can fix and the different way of the issues and how we are going to fix that errors. So let's talk about first. Okay, so why clean code is important? So if we talk about the traditional way, and before front end, before we are using the JavaScript latest modules like Next.js and React, we are using simple HTML, CSS in the project. So what happened in that case? Our backend was very heavy, and all the functionalities, logic, and all the features we are using from the backend side only. So from the front end side, it was only just for a data, display the data and the design part. But now with the new method in headless project using the modern JavaScript framework, like as we all know that in we can achieve JSS project with on React.js as well, Next.js, Angular, and Vue.js as well. So we are shifting into the front-end part mainly, and due to Sitecore, we have complex so every Sitecore project have its complex scenarios, complex functionality and features that make a very heavy data-driven project. So it is very important to write a project, write a code in a clean way. So if just imagine if you want to debug very complex, messy code, it will take a lots of time and effort. So here's the clean code practice come into the picture. So basically, clean code is not about the writing a code uh, that works in a different way. So basically, clean code is not about the writing code. It's about the understanding of the code that the way we can write the code so everyone in our team can understand, or also it can understand by you as well after the 6 months. So there are some basic fundamental that we need to take care while writing or developing a features that can improve readability as well. It can help our code to well maintained. So anytime we have to change anything or need to add any feature, additional features after uh, we completed the feature, so it can be in the easy flow, so it cannot be a messy code. So it is a proper approach how we can add our functionality component. So this can help. Also, it can help to us to reduce a bugs number. So basically, think about the scenario that I have one functionality. I added that functionality and I only focused on the happy flow while developing on that functionality. So what happened that when I deployed my application in QA and maybe a dev environment, and there are some other reasons that my field was not optional from the CMS side, and I haven't added any null check or any um, dependency based on the field. So it will break my code, it will break the page or maybe the application while it was building on any other hosting environment. Like in my recent project, we are using Vercel. So sometimes what happened that if someone or maybe I forgot to add a null check, it will break a build issue. It will happen multiple time I faced in my project. So it broke build while we are deploying on the Vercel on any um, hosting environment. So that's the case. The clean code practice comes into the picture, and also it speed up the development and debugging. If we add the proper commented code and maintain the code in very for proper way, then it is easy to debug by yourself as well or other teammate as well. So let's look into the common errors that occurs multiple times in our front-end driven projects, mainly in Next.js. So, and how we can solve it using the clean code approach. So, these are the three common errors. So, as we know, Next.js provided two different way, SSG and SSR. So, there are some issues or errors occur while working with SSG and SSR. Then hydration error. Most of the times we face this hydration error. And third one is very small but very important null check error. So first is okay, so before moving to the SSG and SSR, let's understand about what is SSG and SSR first. So if you know that in Next.js, page will generate on the server side. So that have two different approach that we can use as per our project requirement. First one is SSG, and which in that it basically it stands for the static site generation. So in that case, we on the build time it will generate all the pages that we have configured in XM Cloud, and when user go to the browser, directly hit on that page or using the URLs. When user click on that page, it will get the data that is already generated at the build time. So if I share one example, so blog website is a perfect example. Like in blogging side, we are not going to frequently change the data. So it is a perfect so SSG is a perfect solution to build a website in Next.js. So basically what happened, I added multiple, like 10 blogs on the my website, and I'm not going to change that blog day by day, or maybe I will change once a week or once a 6 months. So in that case, I will use the SSG method. So it when I build my application or post my application on Vercel, so when I was building the application, it will generate all the 10 blocks pages at the build time only. And when user use that page, it will get um, that page will get from the build time only. So it will not it make my application more faster that we don't need to get data at when the user click on it or that makes so basically take the data at the build time, so it makes application more faster. So on the other one, second is SSR. It's also stand for the server side rendering. It is different. In SSG, it was building page at the build time. It will build the page at the runtime. So what happened when user hit the URL in browser, it every time, every time it will call the server to get the data, and once it will every time it will generate the data with a real-time scenario, and it will return to the user, and then it will visible to user. So that makes SSR little bit slower than SSD, but for the dynamic content or real-time interaction, SSR method will use. So e-commerce site is a perfect example for SSR method. If I give you one example, in my e-commerce site, I added sale feature. So I added sale feature for particular today, and it will expire after 11 p.m. by today. So in that case, what if I added build time pages, it won't help because in that case, I need um, build time runtime timing when user click. For an example, for tomorrow, if I go to that page, it should not show the sale related features. It should expire. So in that case, SSR is perfect. Also, I have one product which have only one quantity, and parallelly, two users are trying to book that product. So once one user will book, then it should automatically show for out of stock for the second user. So that functionality we are not able to achieve at the build time because that sale and stock related data will change dynamically as per real time scenarios. So in that case, we can use the SSI. And so both method have its own features and own limitations. So based on your requirement, you can try this method. So now let's look into that both method in detail. So just a minute, I'm sharing my code base. Okay. So here I added one XMCloud project, and in XMCloud project I set up two JSS project. I use the CLI command that is uh, documented by the Sitecore. So I added two JSS project, one for SSG and second for SSR. So if I go for the SSG first, so as we all know that, uh, so basically how this SSG and SSR work in JSS project, like first we configure all the pages after rendering and configure all the component. We are going to configure pages in XM Cloud, and then that pages should be connected with the Next.js. So for as it will be dynamic route in pages, this path is a path component will call first. So in path, it will call the get static path. So basically for the SSG method, this get static path and get static props are two important methods that help us to achieve SSG functionality. So what happened in get static path, it will here Sitecore added the code. It gives us by Sitecore out of the box, so we don't need to worry about it. But let's look into the basic how this will work. So in get static path, whenever our application will build in path for the path dynamic pages, get static path will call first. What it will do is it will fetch all the pages URL that we have configured in XM Cloud, and it will return path as an array of URLs. So basically, path is a simple array of string, and it will return all the X pages that we have configured in XM Cloud. I configured home page, about us page, contact us page. So it will return all the pages at a build time scenario. After that, it will call the get static props. So how this will work? Like Okay, so let's assume in my case, I have configured 10 pages in XM Cloud, and all the 10 pages get static proc will call one by one. So first it will call for home page, then about us page and contact us page. And in that page, it will get all the data. In based on data, it will generate all the pages at a build time. So this is the overview how SSG works in JSS project. And there are some other features as well. So like here, Sitecore page prospectory.create, it get the all the data information XM from the XM cloud for that particular page and simply pass props to that particular this component, Sitecore page component. Then there are some other functionalities are also there, like revalidate. So revalidate is scenario, like in SSG, most of the all the pages will build at the build. Most of the pages will generated at the build time. But what happened once it will not change day by day, but once a month, once a 6 month, it change, or maybe once a week it change. So also Next.js is giving us a feature that we can revalidate. Means if there is any change come, that it will revalidate, means regenerate page after few in it is in a second. So you can configure like after 5 seconds or 500 seconds, or you can configure by minutes or hours as well. So you can change it as per your requirement. So our pages will generate it as a build time, but it will not take like I deployed my website 1 year ago and it will show me 1 year old data. No, that will not work. Based on the revalidate scenario that you have configured, it will work, it will deploy the and generate a pages again. So this is how SSG works here. Now let's look into the SSR methods. So in SSR as well, in path, yes, the way is same. So first, while we build our application, that time it will not generate any pages in SSR. While user hit on the page, it will call the get server side prop method, and you can get easily the URL over here. Let me run and I can quickly show you. Okay, so in SSR, I am simply running my application. I haven't configured anything yet much. So okay, so here I hit that one page, home page, and if I console out over here, so it gives me the context data that what page we have user hit. So just a minute, there is one field. Yes. So in resolve URL, you can get the path URL path that user uh, uh, call that page. Like it is homepage, so it is showing slash simple slash. Now let's see some other page like Krushna. Yes. So here you can see. So in context, Mm, get server side prop will get the path that user call, and it will so behind this function it will basically call the data uh, and get the data from the XM cloud for this particular page, and it will return the props, fields value, placeholder value, and other dictionary values to that particular uh, component. And if page not found, it will return the not found scenario as well. We don't need to worry about this case as Sitecore is giving us out of the box. here you can see Krushna page is not configured, so it is simply showing me 404 scenario that page not found. So this is how SSG and SSR work in Next.js. So now let's look into the common issues. Yes. So common errors we are facing in SSR and SSG. So first one is a missing data or incorrect API response. So this happened multiple times. We have to implement the functionality in less time. So we only focused on the happy flow, and sometimes we are forgot to look into the failure case. So that break our application if you are using a SSG method that it fail our application at build time or SSR then run time. So how we let's look into that issue first and how we can solve using best coding practices. A minute. So here I have configured component to reproduce that issue. So what I did here is, so I simply added, so okay. So let's look into the layout file first. So what happened in layout file? So again, it is also configured and it is coming out of the box by Sitecore. And here it's run the script head part that we have configured at the page level. Also, we can configure our components over here, but this is not a proper way. Actually, we have to configure the components in the Sitecore side only. So what is the exact flow? First, we uh, configure the renderings, then we configure the components, add the template of the component, add the data source of the component, then we configure the components over the page, and based on that rendering, we can render the placeholder over here. So right now it is JSS main. So think about that backend developer added the JSS main layout and added some component in the JSS main for the home page. So whenever user hit on the home page, that related component will display by the placeholder function component. Right now, I haven't configured anything from the backend side, so I'm simply rendering post error component over here like this. So let's look into the what I have added in the post error component. So this is the SSG method. So I simply added get static prop scenario over here. It is not required that it is not mandatory that you need to add this get static prop scenario on the every component. But if it is required, then you can add as per your requirement. So basically, in my current project, there was one requirement that if I'm rendering my post page, that posts are not coming from the XM cloud. It's are coming from the Audit Cloud or middleware scenario. So in that case, I used here. So there are two types of method you can use to get the data. Currently, I'm using the REST API. You can also use the GraphQL code. So basically, what I added here is simply getting the data, post data, um, and returning that post data to this component, post added component. In post added component, I added one H1 block for the title block post and simply rendering that post is it will array of the title and body. So it will render the title and body of the each post. But this is the happy flow that I added. But what if there will be some issues in API? API will fail, or um, post will be empty, or post have different structure. So this will break my code at a build time. So how we can prevent that kind of issues? So let's look into that part. I already added. Um, null check scenarios and error handling scenarios. So instead of writing a direct post return, I first added try catch block. So as we all know how try catch will work, so I added my API call in try scenario. If it will work, then it will return the uh, post, but if it will not work, then it will handle by the catch scenario. And in catch case, I'm simply rendering post as an empty array. So it will not be undefined or it will not be null. So it will not break the post.map scenario. And also, once I get the response, I will check the status score. If it is okay, then it should proceed for the return case, or it will throw the error that something went wrong. Like if I'm getting odds error or 404 error or 500 internal server error, any error, it will return to the catch state and it will return the empty post over here. So this is how we can add additional functionality to prevent this kind of errors. Similarly, once the post will return, it will call the post component. In post component, I also added some code like um, it should be the array. So this is the array object and method. It will first check posts are coming in the array format or not. If it is not coming in array format, it will simply return and render this message like um, error no post found. Also, after configuring that it is after confirming that it is in array, it will again check the length. Like if post dot length is 0, then it will render the no post available. Else, simply it will render the post dot map method. So every array of object, it will go to the loop and it will render the title and body for that particular post. So this is how we can simply add this checks and scenarios to prevent the major errors that can cause at a build time or runtime. So I hope this case is clear for everyone. Now let's look into the second error, overfetching or overperforming performance issue. So basically, this error mostly happen in SSR case. It is happen in SSG as well, but mainly in SSR. So what happened here? I also prepared this example for the same scenario. Like, so this is my case. What is the requirement? I need user details, I need order details, and I need review detail for particular products or any other scenario. So in my requirement, I need to call all the three APIs and then need to pass that API to my main component, and it will render the data based on the API result. So what will happen in SSG case? First, it will not generate a page at a build time. So when user click on that page, it will try to generate page at server level and it will return to client user mainly. So while generating that page runtime, first it will call to get the user detail, and I have added await, so it will wait to get the user detail. Then it will again wait for converting that data into JSON format. Then it will call the API for getting the order details, and again it will wait. After successful response of the order response, it will call the review API to get the reviews. So it takes lots of time, and again it will, as it is in SSG, so it will be delayed to get the proper response. It will not be fast and it will impact the performance. So how we can solve this kind of scenario? So here promise come into the picture. So how we can let's look into the scenario first. So how I reduce over here is I simply added promise all function feature. So what promise all will do is from promise all will take one parameter. It should be the array of API call. Like here in promise all, I passed array. First, I added code to fetch the user. Then I added code to fetch um, order. Then I added code to fetch review. And promise all will not wait for the first once first API will get response to call second or third then third. It will call all three API parallelly. As I don't have a dependency, so I don't need to wait for first API to get response then other. So this is how we can reduce our API call timing, and also it helps to improve our performance. uh, this is the same scenario I also faced in SSG as well. So it is not for only SSR. You can use in React as well because this is the basic JavaScript concept it added in ES6. So this is the second error I was talking about. And third one is overuse of SSR can slow your down your app. So basically, this is not code related, but this is the kind of approach related scenario. Like I have one blog related project and blog related website. In that, all the data, all the pages mostly are static. But still, I'm using SSR to make my application at run at the generate pages at the server side client time. So it is not necessary. It will work if we generate my blog pages at the build time. So we need to think about the requirement first and the approach. Then we can decide either we need SSG or SSR. So most of the time SSG method works, and even I work in the Sitecore JSS e-commerce project. In that, we are using SSG only because it generates our static pages at the build time, and there are some pages like PDP, PLP pages which I need to generate at the server time that we can achieve using the GraphQL approach. So this is the third error that we need to consider while we are developing our feature. And there was one scenario that I faced a lot, and I tried to solve it. But so what happened in as I configured one JSS setup in SSG method, and then I was calling SSR a method like get server side props. So this will not work. I looked into the documentation and uh, got my so much time to debug about it, but this is the way how Next.js gives, this is the feature how Next.js gives us. Basically, we can't combine this both method. Like in path, I will configure SSG way, and in component level, I will try to get data at the runtime. So this will not work. It will not allow us to combine two different approaches in one project. So deciding approach before we start working on the project, this will be quite helpful. So this is all. These are the all errors that I faced in SSG and SSR scenario. Now let's look into the other errors. Uh, So hydration error, I know it is very common error that we face day-to-day basis. So what is the hydration error? So hydration error happens when there is mismatch between HTML generated page and so basically HTML generated Next.js, we are using Next.js. So Next.js will generate all the pages at server time. And when um, we use the browser to render that pages. So at that time it will render to the client. So if our server time generated page will not match into our browser and client side, uh, hydration error will occur. So, like example, I was ordering a pizza and I added some uh, different toppings like tomato, olives, and when I receive my pizza, it gives me a paneer or any capsicum. So it is both are not matching. So it that time it gives us hydration error. So why it is occurs in Next.js only and why it is not? So in regular Next React.js project, um, just a minute. Yeah. So why it occurs only in Next.js and not in the React.js project? So as we all know that React.js generate pages and render the pages at the client side. In Next.js, it will generate pages at the server side. So in React.js pages, that is only a client side. There is no server side and client side. So there is no need to match those data. But in Next.js, we have server side as well. We have client side as well. So in that case, it will match the data uh, of the page, and this issue will happen. So now let's look into the common hydration error that I face multiple times. Mhm. Okay, so this is a simple example I did for the hydration error. So what I did here is I created one component hydration error example one, and what I'm doing here is I'm simply I did one state random number and set random number. And in use state, I'm setting initial value as a method random. So it can be any number. It will set at the initial level, and in use effect, when it will call the use effect mainly called as a client side. So in client side, I'm again setting the random number as a method random. So what happened? Let's look into the build part first. So in build time, first it will uh, call this function, then it will set that function this random number value from the mat.random, and it will simply render here. For an example, here I'm getting 3 value. So it will render 3 over here, like random number colon 3. This is like a build time page generation. So in build time page generation, it will return the 3 here. And what happened when I call this page on a browser, in use effect also called. Basically, use effect is mainly for the client side only. So in client side, it will set the 4. So it will our server side generated page and our client side generated page will not match. That time it gives us a iteration error. So let's run this component first. So I in this layout, I'm simply calling this example one. Okay. So I'm simply calling my component in layout. Let's go to the browser. Just a minute. Need to run this application first. So here you can see I'm getting hydration error. Like at the build time, random value was different, and at uh, run browser running time, hydration error is different. So this caused the hydration issue. So if you build your application on the upper environment like Dev, QA, Prod, or UAT, this error will occur in Chrome only, Chrome browser only. You can see in a console log like this, and console log like this. But it will not break functionality on upper environment. So basically, hydration error gives us a warning that something wrong in your code. So we can solve that issues. But in local, when you run your page, it will give us a pop-up model like something happened in something wrong, and it gives us a hydration error. So how we can solve this issue? So I created a solution for that issue as well. So what I did here is while building that, I simply changed the initial value. So before I was setting the initial value math.render. Instead of that, I set the initial value null. And you can ignore that. Okay. So in the build time at the initial level, it will set the value of this random number will be null. And while on the client side, uh, it will call the use effect. And in the use effect, again, it will change that random number value to math.random. So that time it will actually set the value. So now let's run this component as well. So now I'm not getting hydration error. So how this will fix? So let's look into the build time scenario first. So in build time, this is how it will call and render. So at the initial level, first it will set the random number state and set the random number state value is null. And at the build time, it will here it will written like random number value null only. So what now let's look into the client side scenario. So client side scenario as well. First, it will return the null value only. So now you can think that client side and server side both have initial value null. So it will kind of match after the component will render. While rendered, then only it will change. So now hydration error will gone, and it our server side and client side uh, HTML will the same. So this is how we can achieve. Or you there is scenarios that we need some time to get the API response at the build time or server at both case. So you can add loading state as well. So this is why we should not define the value, direct initial value over here. Like I define any value from that are getting dynamically. The other example is date.now. So here, if you think like I'm building my project today, so it will take my today's date, like 4th October, and I will hit the page after 2 days. So instead of taking, so it will give hydration error because build time it shows the 4th October and runtime it will show the 6th October. To prevent that kind of error, we just need to initialize the way that it will fix the hydration issue, or it will be same the client side and server side as well, like null, undefined, or we can maintain the loading state as well. So this is how we can solve the hydration issue. The second example I have added for the hydration is HTML structure. So what I did here is in the div, I'm rendering anchor tag. In anchor tag, I added a href path that it will redirect to Next.js documentation page. And in that, I'm also again calling the div, and in div, I'm returning my text that visit next again. And in anchor tag, I'm calling documentation link, and on click on the documentation tag, it will redirect to Krushna page. So let's run. So you can see here, it gives me hydration error like hydration failed because initial UI doesn't match what are rendered on server. And if you check over here, it gives us like expecting server HTML to contain matching uh, div into the A anchor tag. So basically, uh, if you can see, this is not a this is the basic that this is not a common HTML structure that we are following. This is the wrong HTML structure. Like we don't define anchor link in another anchor link. So we can restructure this to solve the hydration issue, and it prevent us to for the hydration error basically. So how we can restructure into the proper HTML structure? So this is the two way I have configured. Like first, okay. So in first, I added div. In div, I added display property flex. So my both link will rendered in same line. So in first anchor, I simply added href that redirect me to the documentation page. And in div, it will render the text for the link. And second, I separate out that another anchor link in outside of the first my parent anchor link. So this will solve a hydration issue. Basically, this is the proper HTML structure. So again, it is kind of the proper best coding practice that we should follow. So this is how we can fix this issue. There is another way as well that we can use. So what I did instead of anchor link, I simply added div, and in div I added the on-click functionality. So everything is same like visit next test documentation page. Instead of on anchor link, I added on click function, and when user click on the on visit next link, it will redirect to Krushna page. So I this is how we can solve the hydration HTML hydration error, which is basically for the HTML structure. So these are the main case that we face. Just a minute now, I can. So now you can say in both case CSS is kind of different because in anchor link it by default blue text color is out of the box for the CSS part, and in Div there is no hyperlink scenario, so we can anyways manage from the sorry, CSS side on CSS side. So this is how it will not change our CSS or structure. Also, it prevent us to from the hydration error. So this is all scenarios that mainly occurs. if we are not following the proper coding practice and proper coding structure. So what next is null check. It is last but not the least because one small null check will impact on the large project. Like uh, if I miss one small null check for the particular scenario, it might break whole component, whole page, or it may uh, gives us error at a build time as well. It fail our deployment as well. So what is exactly our null check? So in programming, null check is a condition that verify whether an object and variable is null before we attempt to use it. This is important because if we in Sitecore we are using the complex data structure. Like if I consider that in simple rich text component, it gives me the field object. In field object there is text I have configured. In text object I'm getting value and actual value after that. So you you can see there are so many nested object over there. There are some chances if it is not properly content is not properly added in CMS side, that can lead broken pages, broken site as well. So we have to prevent that kind of scenarios in front end part only. So let's look into the example. Yes, so there are some common scenarios like if what if we are not getting filled value? What if our API, we thought that our API will give this kind of data, but API will fail. There is chance my API will fail and it will not give me any data, and I haven't added any kind of null check. So it will give me a broken component or broken page. So how we can prevent those kind of scenarios? So there are multiple ways you can use lean for best practice. You can add TypeScript in Next.js or React.js application. You can handle it by if-else scenario. You can also handle by the optional chaining. So now let's look into that, how we can add the null check. So for that same, I added one user list component. So what I did in user list is in user list, I'm getting filled. So think about this user list components is configured from the XM Cloud side, and of in the field, I will get the data in form of like this. So in fields, I will get one key object detail, and user detail is basically object of array. It will hold the object details. So now let's run this application first. So in field, I'm simply first rendering the header like it is user list, then directly without any check that I'm getting user details or not. I'm simply rendering that this. I'm simply calling the user detail, assuming that that should be an array of object. I'm adding map function over here. And in map function, I'm simply rendering this data like username, user city, and zip, which is user.name, user.address.ct, and user.address.zip. So now let's run first. So if you see here, it is giving me null check error like field.user cannot read the property of undefined. Like I'm getting field undefined, so it will not get any uh, data from the undefined. And if this is failing, that this will fail the whole page. So how we can prevent this scenario? So we can add null check. like I will add like this. If there is no field, if there is no field are coming from the props, uh, or I'm getting fields that user detail, but it is not array in the form of array. It will simply return that no user details available. This is kind of the fallback value that is important to prevent this kind of errors. So now you can see I'm getting the uh, so basically my error is handled very well over here. Like I'm not getting any data, so it will display the no user details available. So so now look into the different scenario. I'm getting data like this. So basically, I'm passing the default initial value. If data will not come, in that case, it will take this object as a default case. Yes. So here as well, it gives a null check error. Like so, what happened? Now we are getting proper data. In user detail, we are getting the array of object. In object, we are getting two data. So in that case, it will successfully pass this kind of scenario and move to the next part. So in this, it will first render the user list header, then as it is array of object, it will call the map, it will run the map function. And what I'm doing here is in map function, I'm simply adding user.name. So on the first case, John Doe, it will return the username as a John Doe. Then for the user city, it will go to the address, and in address, it will get the data from the city key. So in that case, it will be New York. So this will work properly. Or also for the zip, it will return the 10001. So for the first user, it will run properly as expected. But sometimes that happen that user are not filling proper data. Or think about the e-commerce project, and in that every store have to fill that form, fill that detail. But some of them haven't filled that detail, so we have to add the prevent. Um, we have to prevent that null kind of scenarios. So here you can see that address field is null. So there is no chance I'm getting the city field from that address. So in that case, I have added fallback value, but I haven't entered that what is user dot address will be empty. So there are multiple way I can prevent this kind of error. Like for this case, I am using ternary operator. If there is user dot address, then it go to the so what it will check that this. So first it will check that if there is that user dot address is there or not. So in this case, it will return true. So in that scenario, it will trying to get city data from that object. But for the second case, address is null, so it will return the false over here. So it will take the fallback value that city is not available. Now, for same for the zip, let me try different approach. Like you can also use if and else. So initially, for the every user zip, I'm setting fallback value at initial level. Then I will check like user address is that, and then zip. then it will set the zip like this. So if I now go to the browser, now you can see it is properly covered with all the fail and successful scenarios. So similarly, you can also do the null check because uh, as we all work know and we all work in with the JSS project, so this is the simplest example. There are chances that we have 3 layer, 4 layer, 5 layer objects also there. So instead of doing if else for the all scenarios, like if I have another layer, so I have to write first. Then I have one more level.
Krishna, sorry to interrupt, but we are at time, so it'll be helpful if you could wrap up in 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, sure. This is the last example I was showing this. Yeah. So instead of going this many if and else condition, we can simply use optional chaining. So how optional chaining will work? It will work like simply like this. Instead of doing this many if condition writing conditions in if state, you can add question mark before the dot. So how this will work that it first it will check is there is user. If it has the user data, then it will go to the next level. Then it will check user have address. If a user have address, then it will go to and check the next level, and it will return the zip value. If there is no data, then it will not break our code, or without even without the fallback value, that will it will not break our app, component page or application. So it will directly prevent our failure case as well. So for the null check, optional chaining is one of the best example of one of the best case you can check. And yes, that's all about the null check. So I have covered all the common errors that are mainly occurs in the Next.js application. Now I'm like to open for the question that you might have. So feel free to ask if anyone have any question. Okay, I'm okay. If no one have any question, then thank you so much for your attention and time. I hope this session was informative for you. And
Yeah.
Yamin and Vishal also thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, yes, this is a really good thing. I think we did look at a different perspective from front end as well, because these are also important in the coming future days, because the front end is becoming now the trend. So I think we did understand what are hydration errors also. I think it was a very good presentation. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, team.